welcome back to my channel. It's lateasha here today talking about the third chakra, the solar plexus or the Manipura chakra. So this chakra gets a lot of hype because it is considered the powerhouse, the action taker of the chakras. And our society is very action focused, very rewarding of people who have type A personalities, people who take action, who make it happen, who manifest, who get things done. So this chakra is associated with the color yellow. It is located in the center of the abdomen with our digestive system, our core strength, our abs, and our mid-back. This chakra has to do with the element of fire. So think about flames, cooking, a hearth. When you cook, it changes the protein and denatures it and changes the food that you cook. When you burn wood, plastic, any sort of element, it transforms that element into a different substance. So when we think about fire in this chakra, you think about digesting, breaking down energy, and redispersing those molecules to be used up in a different way in the body. So our digestion, our metabolic rate have a lot to do with this chakra. So our functioning of that area has a lot to tell about whether or not this chakra is balanced. So we start developing the characteristics, like the personality characteristics of this chakra at around 18 months to 4 years old. So kind of in that terrible twos, terrible threes stage of childhood, which makes a lot of sense because this chakra is getting ahead of myself here. This chakra has to do with our right to act and our right to be individual. So this is when you start to separate from the mother and form your own identity, establish autonomy, willpower, and start acting and doing the things that you're drawn to. So that desire and longing of the second chakra starts to actually take hold in action. So you think a child might see, oh, look, there's a balloon on the counter. I want that. Now they're starting to, in their physical body, in the root chakra, have the power to get up and take action on actually getting the balloon, if that makes sense. So this stage is very critical in the development of our confidence and our personal power. And a lot of people, I think, have excessive and deficient chakras in the third chakra because of what is standardized parenting practices. It's seeing a lot of change in this area in the last 20 years, but I know when I was raised, the idea of breaking a child's will and forcing your opinion and dominating their willpower with your own, a battle of the wills when they're in the terrible twos and threes. Terrible. I would say they're terrific, but it is a challenge. It's something that really affects you growing up, how you look at yourself, how you act in the world. If you're constantly getting shamed and punished and told no, and you're not allowed to act on your desires, and you're not allowed to have autonomy and a sense of freedom of any sort, then that is going to throw off your ability to stand up tall and have confidence in the world when you get older. You really got to think about it. It's easier to be a parent to a child that has no willpower and does everything you say and are very submissive. But when you grow up and go out into the real world, those are not skills that are going to get you anywhere. Having the skill to determine what you want, to take action on the things you desire, to say no to things, say yes to things, have your own opinion, to stand confidently, to be able to engage with other people without fear. These are all things that are going to be very helpful in your flourishing and manifesting in life. But if your parents try to repress that in you as a child, it'll have effects going into your teenage years and adulthood. Balanced characteristics are responsible, reliable, balanced and effective will, good ego strength, warmth in personality, confidence, ability to be playful and spontaneous, appropriate self-discipline, and a sense of one's personal power. So traumas and abuses to this chakra are shaming, authoritarianism, volatile situations, domination of will, physical abuse and fear of punishment, enmeshment, age, inappropriate responsibilities, and inherited shame. Some signs of deficiency in this chakra would be low energy, weak willpower, easily manipulated, poor self-discipline, low self-esteem, cold and emotionally shut down, poor digestion, collapsed midriff, attraction to stimulants, victim mentality, always blaming others, passive and unreliable. I just want to take a note before I note the excesses that you can have characteristics in both excess and deficiency within the same chakra, and you can move back and forth at different times in your life. I've certainly demonstrated a lot of the deficient aspects of this chakra, and I'm going to read through the excess, and there's a lot of excess aspects, and there's times in my life where I've been very deficient and then kind of cascaded all the pendulum swing to the other side in excessive, and then the challenge is, bringing that to center, bringing that to balance. So excess is overly aggressive, dominating, controlling, need to be right and always have the last word, manipulative, power hungry and deceitful, attractive to sedatives, temper tantrums, violent outbursts, stubbornness, type A personality, competitive, arrogant, and hyperactive. So think of yourself, take a little mental checklist of what things are going on with you, and look back at how you were parented, how rules were achieved in your household. Were there very, very strict, rigid rules with very harsh consequences if they were broken? Were you grounded if you even had an opinion that counteracted the opinion of the household? Were you allowed to express your opinions and take action towards things that you desired regardless of what your parents thought? Were you allowed to have a difference of opinion without cold, harsh punishments? Or the opposite, were there very little boundaries and there was no pushback at all from parents who were allowed to, run free and wild without any guidance as to what things were acceptable and what things weren't, like, running up and maybe punching another kid in the face. You might need to have a talk with your kid about that versus absolutely no. I can't find my words today. I'm sorry, guys. Versus people that have no flexibility in their boundaries. So you can have the exact same situation and two different children might react to it very differently. For instance, during this age range, I was on and off living with my grandma, and in her day and age, it's like, you know, children are seen, not heard. There is a lot of rigidity of rules, and children are expected to follow them. So nothing against her. I love her very much, but this had an effect on me and my sisters and how we relate to the world and how we show up and how we act and how we parent ourselves. So for me, I tend to be more on that like type A personality. I take initiative, I push myself, even though there's an underlying sense of like self-worth that's lacking and, you know, lack of confidence and stuff, and trying to overcompensate for that lack of confidence and for that by pushing and persevering, and, you know, and that means even pushing my opinion onto people, pushing other people's boundaries, pushing and always like fighting through to get the results. Versus my sisters are like the opposite, where they would be more deficient in this chakra of like, you know, a weak sense of willpower, maybe not taking action when they know they should, having a hard time starting and taking initiative on things, allowing other people to push them around a lot more. It's interesting that you can have, like, you could put 10 different people in the exact same situation and all the facts are the same, but the reaction to it is different. The way they decide to perceive it and to react to it can vary very greatly. So something to be mindful of. Sorry, my baby's just sitting over here. He woke up during the filming of this video and it looks like he's throwing up on the floor. So I'm just gonna pick him up so he doesn't have to do that. And with my first son, who's 11, even though I didn't like have an intention to break his will or, you know, affect his confidence, I loved him very much. I always told him how much I loved him. I gave him lots of hugs and kisses, and you know, tucked him into bed every night. All of his needs were met, and I felt like I was doing my best to support him emotionally, but I still, without this understanding, often would take the route of like, I'm the adult, you're the parent, you listen to me, I'm right, you're wrong, don't talk back, that kind of thing. And I can see it in his behavior now, how he became very excessive in this chakra because I tried to break his will in a way. I tried to be overly domineering to him. I didn't let him have the autonomy that he desired, and I really tried to push and force my view of the world on him. And so now he always has to have the last word. He's very stubborn. He can be very deceitful at times, things like that. So going forward with my next son, it's, you know, not going to happen overnight. And I don't think there's like a magic, you know, equation for not fucking up your child, but it's definitely nice to have this awareness and this lens to look at parenting through, like, that is it worth it? And how can I take into consideration still having rules and boundaries, but allowing my son to have the autonomy and the flexibility to, you know, speak their mind, have their opinion and stuff without it being like they're forcing it on other people because they feel like they're put into a corner. So that's my personal kind of experience with this chakra and how it has affected me in my life, and having to kind of scale back that, you know, temper tantrum, violent outbursts, like very pushing for control, high energy, always taking action. And taking action and taking action and taking action on something isn't necessarily good just because you're doing something, versus someone who's like lazy and never does anything and can't get themselves to take action. Because if you're taking action and the other chakras are out of balance and you're taking action towards things that aren't good for you, that you're not in alignment with what you desire, your feet aren't on the ground, you're not grounded, you're in your head, you're all over the place. It's going to be very hard to keep the momentum and keep the energy going, and you're going to be constantly knocking back your confidence, and your sense of personal power is going to start getting diminished because you're going to be like, why is nothing working out when I'm pushing so hard? So you have to keep in mind that just because something seems like it could be good for you doesn't necessarily mean it is. You have to get in alignment with everything, at all these parts, to work together to really create magic in your life and to feel happy and content. Another thing I wanted to talk about with this chakra, because it has to do with the physicality of this chakra, really has to do with our metabolic rate, our metabolism, is really focus on paying attention to how you digest your food. Do you have issues with like tummy aches, or like what is your energy level like? Anna Dea Judith does a really great example of explaining this, about having like a log on the fire where the fire is there. So that's our like metabolic rate. And we're looking for energy. We want more energy because we don't know how to expend the energy we have. So someone who's very low energy might look to food and keep putting food and stacking it on the fire to get more energy. But because it's like putting wet logs on a fire, it's like bogging it down. It's not actually, the fire's not able to burn and transmute that. So you just get heavier and heavier and slower and slower. And then opposite of that is someone who has they're not putting a bunch of food on the fire and their fire burns too bright. This is like that type A personality where you burn through energy really fast because you're constantly taking action, and it's just like all over the place and the fire burns out of control. So I found that a very helpful analogy to understand this chakra and like our relationship to food and to action. How are we bringing energy in, and how are we transmuting it? Is that energy being effectively run through the system and put towards things that are helpful to us, or is it just getting brought in and then making us feel sluggish and tired, or are we just burning through our energy without any thought to where it's being allocated? So some food for thought there. I hope you enjoyed this discussion on the third chakra, the Manipura chakra, or also known as the solar plexus. I will be doing a 30-minute solar plexus flow on Wednesday on this channel, so stay tuned and definitely subscribe if you haven't already to be updated with that. We still have 4 more chakras to go, so we'll see you then.